Thanks for dropping by. Now, this hasn't happened before, well, not in my memory anyway. This always used to be my Sunday morning chat, and it got later and later, and it ended up just being my Sunday orchid chat, which meant I could do it any time of day I liked. Now today, I had some stuff to do this morning due to stuff for the Orchid Societies, and to water my mounts, and then I had some lunch, and I thought, I'll get on and do my video. And I couldn't. Why couldn't I? Because we've had a sunny day, and all the kit was going. And I thought, you know, these videos normally run a little bit longer than perhaps some might like, but you know, you're looking at minimum of half an hour, normally about 3/4 of an hour, give or take, sometimes longer. And I couldn't justify having all the kit off for that length of time. The temperature would have absolutely rocketed. So, and I need the door open because that's where the camera goes, so the humidity would have dropped like a stone as well, all drifting off into the house where I don't want it. So in the end I thought I'll leave it. I'll leave it till later in the day. And it got later, and it got later. And now the sun's setting. It's got that late, and I'll need some tea soon, let alone lunch. Anyway, so that's just how it's gone. But I think I'm getting to the point now where I really will have to get this done earlier in the day. You know, I mean, it makes a different perspective because the light is over there instead of where it is now behind me. And as a consequence, I've had to bring the camera forward, and I need to move that tripod because it's you're going to get wobbled, but that's better. So I was leaning forward on the verge of, you know, a slight knock, and it might have actually come forward. And we certainly don't want the camera dropping lens face down, do we? Yeah, so the light's in a different place. In the morning it's over this side. So we may have to get back to doing the filming first and then the other things after, you know, like it has been for a very long time. But what I thought I'd do today is just pick up a few plants that don't get picked up for one reason or another. Some of them are maybe problem plants. Some of them, there's not a problem. There's absolutely nothing wrong, but they just never get looked at. And the first one I'm going to grab is the biggie up here. Now this is my Bulbophyllum Elizabeth Ann Bucklebury, and this is due to go to somebody else as soon as I'm allowed out. Somebody else is going to take this off my hands because it doesn't do a lot for me. And on a shelf, that's taking up the space of 2 or 3 pots. You know, now if I had oodles of space and it could just sit there doing its thing, I'd be quite happy. But there's nothing wrong with this, nothing wrong with it at all. It's chucking out new growths all over the place. I don't know whether you'll be able to see them all because they tuck in behind these. We've got a new growth there. There's one behind it here, that's quite a tall one. There's one coming up in the middle of the plant there. Another one coming up round here. So it's a massive, oh, there's another one tucked in there. Nice big one, that is. So there's a lot of new growths on here. Well, that should be followed by blooms. Never had a mass blooming on this, I've just had an odd bloom now and again. I think the only time I ever had more than one bloom at the same time was when it was on a mount, and that was a long time ago. Because what actually happened was I bought one, and it was 2. There were 2 in the pot, a little one and a big one. And it ended up on a mount, and then I got given another pot, another one, and that was 2 as well. So I ended up with 2 quite large ones and 2 quite small ones. I chucked them all in there. There's actually 4 separate plants in there, 2 of which would be classed as quite mature now. Anyway, there's nothing wrong with that, it's just never gets looked at. Oh! That's that one. And while I'm up here, we will have a quick look at the zygo because it is still alive, all you doubters, and it's coming on quite well. Now I haven't got any longer stakes, well I have, but they're they're giant fat ones. I don't want to poke that down in these delicate roots. So that's as high as I can stake it. But I've achieved what I wanted, which is one growing almost upright and one arching over. And they're starting to get colour on the buds now. I can see colour coming through. So I don't know how long before it opens, but it looks like 6 blooms per spike. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 2, 4, 6. Yeah, so you know there's going to be 12 Zygopetalum blooms soon on a live plant. This is quite something, isn't it? Anyway, a quick look at that. And then there's a couple of plants down here that don't ever come off the shelf. And some of these came from Jeff's. This is one from Jeff's, and you can read that for your flipping self. If it's in focus. Oh, a mouthful. And that was, you know, there was quite a lot of plants came out of Jeff's place that had no tags. What they had was a number on the pot, and that related to his notes on his laptop, which we couldn't get at. So that's a lot of good, wasn't it? But this was pieces of that went in this pot, virtually rootless. Well, they're growing. So whatever that is, we might be able to get the flipping thing to flower. But the pieces seem to be pushing out roots quite nicely now. Getting quite a little pot full. Again, because I know nothing about it, can't even pronounce it, let alone know anything about it. Several of these have bloomed in the past. They do push a spike right up through the centre. So I'd be looking at new growths to expect any blooms. So that'll be things like this, new growth here with lots of new roots coming out. There's no sign of any buds yet. But anyway, that was one of Jeff's that, as I said, it ended up quite a few pieces. And this is another one of Jeff's as well. I don't quite know what this is going to do, at least I can pronounce this one. This is an Encyclia lancifolia. And again, it was potted up with no roots, basically. And it was a couple of pieces. Both of which had bloomed. You can see the old flower spikes there and there, and then both of those had other growths, one of which had bloomed, one of which hadn't, and it looks like it's got a sheath. And we had new growths coming, and the new growths at the front of the plant here and here have both started roots now. And the other thing I'd like to say about those two plants, both of them are in the cocoa husk. Both of them have generated some roots relatively quickly. Now I am having a problem with the cocoa husk because it's the idea of it is to actually hold water for longer than perhaps bark might on its own. But the way I used to get round that is I contrived to try and get everything in a pot on the same watering cycle by adjusting the media or making holes in the pot. And the coconut husk appears to be generating roots. It's done it with the zygo, that was the forerunner, the pioneer. Several other plants in the meantime have also gone in husk. They've also seemed to be generating roots okay. Now they may well have generated roots anyway, but the cocoa husk on its own is drying faster than my normal watering cycle for pots. So if you take that, that is bone dry. Now that's not husk on its own, that's got bark and charcoal in there, I can see the charcoal. But they're drying fast, and that was not the idea. Not the idea at all. And this one never comes out to play as well. This whole shelf never comes out to play, basically. This is my this is Miltonia Regnelly Eye. This was got from Burnham's. I believe. Yes, it says Burnham's neighbour on the tag. And we had good spikes, they lasted well, and I liked it a lot. Now, I haven't repotted this because it's in Burnham's bark. It doesn't look like it's been in there long. The only thing I would say is I think I might need to top the bark up a bit. Because we've got an awful lot of aerial roots here. But what we've got is this may be separate divisions. It could just be one division off of a large specimen plant. I don't know. Unless I take it out of the pot, I'm never going to know, I don't suppose. But we've got a new growth here. Hello, pussycat. Another one here. And then we've got another one here. And another one here. So we've got 4 new growths on there. And there's no good reason whatsoever why we shouldn't get 4 spikes. The problem is I don't know how mature those growths have to be before we see the spikes starting. But what I can say is these new growths haven't started their roots yet. All these aerial roots and everything are off previous growths. These new growths haven't started their new roots yet. Now, there are oncidium types, including some of the Miltonias, that don't produce their roots on those new growths until the new growths are probably halfway till maturity, and some of them wait even longer than that. There are a few that push out their new roots with the new growths, but not many. So this business of as soon as you see the new growths get your repotting done is not necessarily the best of ideas, because if you've got to wait for that new growth to get quite mature, you could be looking at 4, 5, 6 months and you haven't got your new roots yet. So it might pay to get to know your plants better and get to know when those new roots come for that plant, at what stage do the new roots grow. And if you've got anything like the memories that are going on at the moment, all right, Ed? People's memories can fail, and you can have a day. You can be fine, and then you can just have a day when all the words come out wrong, you say things you don't mean, you point at things and call it A when it's B. We all have days like that. That's not necessarily an age thing. But we all have moments where we wish we could do a quick rewind, scroll back, and we'll play that one again. We all have days like that. We have moments like that, probably a lot more frequently than we'd admit to. But sometimes you can have a whole day like that, where everything you touch just doesn't seem to go as required, as it should do. And blow it. I just look at it and think, oh, and just forget it. Go on and try something else and see if that works. Right, what else have we got that doesn't come out very often? That will be out soon because it's got buds on. I'm not getting that out because it's not mine. We haven't had a look at the Miltoniopsis for a while, have we? Yeah, we're not going to today either. Because basically I'm trying to get at things that I can get at reasonably easy. Oh, we can have a look at a spike. Do you know, I was thinking actually today while I was watering my mounts, I've got more oncidiums on mounts of recent times than I've ever had before, because they seem to work quite well. And as far as watering is concerned, I rattle off my mounts a lot faster than I do with the pots, because the pots have to go somewhere and sit in their tray for a bit so that I can then empty the tray, and I have to get at things at the back of a shelf. I need the front of the shelf gone. So everything has to come off and be moved, and that's what I use this bench for. It's quite important for that. So I will start at the front of the shelf. First plant water over there, next plant water over there, until eventually the whole shelf is over here. And then, in a short while, I can lift them up, empty their drip trays, and put them back in the same order, so that those that go at the back near the glass end up in the same place, and those at the front that don't need such bright light end up at the front. And it works for me, but it takes longer, because there's only so much room there. So I can only do like one shelf, then have a moment, and then put that shelf back, then start on another one, and then we get to the bending down bit, and then we go, oh, ow, I wish I hadn't put that so low down, and do all that sort of stuff. So I get through my mounts a lot quicker. But I've got to the point now where I haven't got much more room for mounts, and until I can get at Marius with the National Dendrobium collection, which will free some space, because there's some plants in here that are due to go to Marius, including that huge thing down there. This thing here, that's going. What else is going? There was something else. Anyway, there's a few plants to go to Marius as part of that Dendrobium collection. But I like mounted orchids. I like the look of them. This one up here, non-bloomer so far, bought at the, no, actually won in the raffle. This is, it hasn't got a label, this is something or other, Encyclia. Anyway, it's Lanipes. I might do a pop-up, which is rare on a Sunday video. I keep my editing to a minimum on the Sunday ones. Just waffle away, load it, job done. But this one grew this nice big fat cane last year and started a new growth in a different place, which I was quite pleased about. And it's just coming back into growth now. If you look there, you've got new roots and a new growth just starting. And up the back there, that's an area which should come into growth, I would imagine, as well. So this is sort of coming back to life now. Now, out of the size of the canes I've got here, that's the biggest. And my one is the same size as that, only it's got leaves because it's last year's growth. Now, knowing nothing about this plant, I don't know, this cane, pseudo-bulb, one of the two, it depends what the genus is. This could produce some spikes this year, so I've got my eye on it. I mean, I've got no expectations, but you know, knowing orchids doing what they do, I don't see why that cane is not blooming size, but I don't know when and from where. So I just keep my eye on that one. But, hopefully we will get something out of that this year. That'd be nice. But it's coming back into growth, which is a new set of roots and some new canes, bulbs. You choose. Now this is a problem plant and it will not grow. And it's gradually losing more and more bulbs due to rot. And it's just rotted another new growth there. So all I've got really going is this and this. And it's a shame because this is special, this one. This is my Obsidian vararakosam, and it's Roger's Eye variety balding. I'll never get that again. It just will not grow. Unknown. And I mean this little growth has just rotted. I don't know why. It's not like I got it wet. The huge big yellowing bulb that was on there started to go soft. That's had to come off. That leaves no resources now. Got one pseudo bulb here and a little growth there that hasn't formed a proper bulb. I don't know what's going to happen with that. At the moment in my mind I think I'm going to lose it, but I will keep on with it because blooms on that are gorgeous. But you can't force a thing to grow if it just refuses to. It's just not going to have it. Somebody actually asked about this one, so I'll get this down. This is another one I had a hell of a job saying, but this was part of the Schwerter order, and it was a hijacker. You know, it hitched a lift as part of my birthday present. Sophranitis, brevi pedunculata. Brevi pedunculata. That. I think I said that right actually. Now this is on one of these little funny little clay things, but being a cool grower, it can stay there because with the evaporative cooling it should help at least keep the roots cool. Now I've got active roots all over the place on this little delicate thing. They're not attaching, which is worrying because it says to me that they don't like the clay. But they don't need to attach for the plant to do well. But what we have got on here is little new growth there, and then another one coming out there. So we've got 2 active new growths and plenty of root activity. So that's doing okay. Be interested to see some blooms on that. Typical, I mean, it's on the tag it says Sophranitis. It'll be Cattleya by now. That will have changed to Cattleya. Be interesting to see some blooms, because virtually all of the ex-Sophranitis are either a deep orange or a red colour, often with a yellow centre. Very attractive. I was thinking actually the Sophranitis coccinea, I think, is actually our a simplified form. It's actually our logo for Bournemouth Orchid Society. So yeah. Anything else I wanted to look at? Oh yes, I'll get this out. It's going to be a pain. I need to drink some of that, because I'll have to get everything else out. Oh, that's going to go as well. That silly thing that sits on the floor. It's actually growing. Well, this cane is pushing on now. It's got slug damage all over it, but that is an active cane that is growing, pushing on quite nicely. And I hate to say it, because I'm debating the name of this. This has actually got a tag on it that says it's Friderixianum, which I've got. That's my one that got the RHS award. And it doesn't look anything like this. And the canes don't grow anywhere near as long as this thing. But this cane here is swelling on the joints, which implies it's going to bloom. That'll be weird, because if that is, it's well out of season. Friderixianum is a, well, mine got its award in Malvern from the RHS, which is the middle of June, and that's when it was in its full flood. So, and mine certainly hasn't got any signs of swelling yet, has it? No, not yet. Coming soon, no doubt. What was I doing? Right. My Soto Allen that I nearly lost was split and repotted, and it's currently got scale. Oh dear, I need to deal with that. That's bad. I doubt if I can show you, but I've just pulled the sheath off. There. You may be able to see it. That whole area of that bulb, again, at the base of an ex-flower spike, absolutely smothered. And I can't get to my spray, but if I leave the plant out, it'll remind me. That's bad. That's really bad. I suspect if they're there, they could be in other places too. Have a quick look. See, now those have just appeared out of nowhere. Probably, I mean, the plant did have scale last year, and it was treated, and it appeared to have worked. And then out of the blue, they flipping come back again, like I keep saying. So I'm just getting the sheaths off now to have a thorough look. Not so bad, because I mean the sheaths have just come off that bulb, and there's none. So it's just that bit there at the moment, what I can see. But that's got a new growth just starting, and it is now producing some more roots because I lost the roots. So that's going to come back slowly but surely. And the other piece that went in a totally separate pot, this one's more advanced. This has actually got 2 new growths pushing on here, and another one round here next to the scale on that large pseudo bulb. I think we're getting to the point now where I'm going to have to get the systemic out and spray the grow room. I've done with it, but it's the sort of thing you can't really do in the winter because the plants won't dry. They need a proper soak. If you're going to do it, you need to do it and do it properly. Anyway, that's not the 2 I was getting out. My battery's about to die. I'll shut down and come back with another battery. Right, it's back up and running. That is becoming a problem. My large heavy duty battery that goes with the camera sticks out the end. It's like bigger than the compartment. It's starting to die, because when it was fully charged, it used to start out, when I turned the camera on, at about 310 minutes, and after a full charge now it's like 150, 160. That's, you know, that's only half what it should be. It's not enabling a full charge anymore, which means it's dying. It's gradually going to go. And I have two other batteries that are half the size that are relatively new. They've hardly ever been used, and they came with the battery charger that I had to buy because this camera, the batteries used to charge on the camera. You plugged the USB in and the batteries charged on the camera, but that failed. So I had to think, right, now how the hell do I charge my batteries up now? The socket on the camera doesn't work anymore. So I had to get a separate charger, and the two batteries came with it. I had no choice, but it's looking like it's a good job they did. A replacement heavy duty battery, looking on eBay, they're like hen's teeth, you can't find them, and they're about 30 quid. But then the one I've got has lasted, what, 3 years, 4 years? It's not bad, is it? So, right, this is one of the ones I wanted to show you on this shelf, because we don't see it very often. Now this is the Pabstia yagosa, or jagosa, however you want to say it. Didn't have a very good root system, but potted this in the coconut husk. The root system it had has been maintained. They haven't died. It's not very good, and they're all down the bottom of the pot. But this growth up here is producing some new growths, and they are making their way down in the pot. And then we have the tiniest of other new growths over here that looks like it's going to fail to me, quite honestly. And then we have another behind this growth, which is producing the roots, is another new growth tucked around the back that's pushing on quite nicely. So I think it's going to be okay, but I think of it like I do the zygo. And my first thoughts were, it's probably not going to make it. It was given to me by Speciotic Plants, Zuza, and it was called my challenge plant. So obviously it was going to be a bit iffy, wasn't it, given a name like your challenge plant, but it's growing, and I'm happy no matter how difficult a plant is. If I see an orchid growing new roots that don't look like they're going to fail, it's going to make it, because if it's happy enough to produce a root system, my environment can never be bad enough that it's going to kill the plant. It's normally the lack of roots that kill the flipping things. So I think it's going to be okay. I mean, yes, it might get too much light. Yes, it might not get quite enough. It might not be quite warm enough. It might be a little bit cold at night. And some plants would actually object to those cooler temperatures at night and may not do very well at all. But then for 4 or 5 months of the year, those night temperatures will be fine. You know, so we have this balancing act to play. So I'll get to the one I was after in a minute. It's right at the back here. Right at the back. Ugh. Now, last time we looked at this, I said this is probably my only Oncidium type with a spike. Yay! And it's a nice one. Look how it grows right up the centre of the leaf. And obviously if I didn't pull it around, it would then eventually come off the end of the leaf. Almost looks like a giant pleurothallid. But this should have a lot of blooms. It is of that ilk. And this is Oncidium chrysomorphum. And having just picked it up to show you this nice spike coming out of this growth here, look what's coming out of this old bulb. We've got a second spike. I'm blooming sure that wasn't there last time I looked. You're not sneaking any more up on me, are you? And none of these are on the new growth. This is all on the old part of the plant. As you can see, shriveled pseudobulb with spikes sticking out the top. Do you know what? There's another one here. That's 3 spikes. Oh, now those have snuck up on me. So we've got this one coming out of a very old part of the plant. We've got this one here coming out of a not quite so old part of the plant, along with this giant one coming out of a old part of the plant. And the new growth that I was looking forward to blooming, not a light. That's just growing. But this came from Zana and it had no roots. Well, it has now. It's really done its roots. And that's an old potting, because that's in bark with moss. But it's a happy bunny, so I'm not in any rush to undo that, that's for sure. So I got that out to show you the progress of this spike, and having done so, we've now discovered 2 others. 3 spikes on that. That, I believe, is going to be quite a picture when that blooms. Now I may well try and stake these spikes, because at the moment we're still running the virtual table displays as competitive stuff for the Orchid Societies, because we're still nowhere near having meetings where we can go. And I think we're looking at June, July before that can probably happen. Not only be legally allowable, but the people involved willing to do so. Yeah. Now, given that Orchid Societies, the average age is up there somewhere, everybody will have had their jabs. So in my book, they've got no excuse. You can't get much better than having had your 2 jabs, really, and social distancing. You know, those combinations of those things are good enough in my book. I'll be happy to do stuff under those things. Oh, we'll have a look at that while I've got it in my hand. This was a risk. I don't normally do polyclay pots. This was the other Laelia purpurata, and this was variety striata. And I've just noticed I've spelt that wrong on my label. I've missed the R out of striata. But I took the risk and split this in 2 and potted it in either direction to try and fill the pot. And I like it when you take a risk and it works, because one piece has got this strong new growth and the other piece breaking them in for a friend, still haven't done it, has got another nice new growth, and both of them are just starting some roots. So that's going to grow on nicely now, which is good, as the other one, the purpurata, is not doing as well as it ought to, having had the scale treatment. Right, so that's what all that fuss was, just to get to that Obsidian chrysomorphum. And we got there eventually. But you see what I mean about, like, when I'm watering the pots. You know, each one of those would have had to have been got out, watered, put up here, over to the next one. They take longer than the mounts, they really do. And the other one that's buried in over here that we haven't looked at for a long time, and somebody did ask about it, not that. That was a rescue that's actually growing okay. We've got new growths. Another one there, one there. No roots yet, but they will come. What I wanted to get out was my Dendrobium hibiki, which has an appearance of not looking as good as it ought to. But the appearance is deceiving, because all the new growths, probably about 20 of them, are heading out away from the centre of the plant. The centre of the plant is the really old part, and this is where we've got canes that are losing their leaves, which makes the plant look tatty. I mean, I could probably just peel them off, they are old, like that. But they're in the centre of the plant, which is the bit that catches your eye when you pick it up. Now, there's no sign of any blooms on this yet, and the way it's growing, I wouldn't expect any yet. But the way it's growing is quite incredible. If we just, I'll pick a point there. If we pick that point, that's a mature cane. And then to the left of it, we've got 1, 2, and then following on round, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, oh God, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. More than 20 new growths on that. It's going mad. But what it's not doing is blooming yet. But if these new growths successfully push on and become canes like this one, we should start seeing some blooms. My problem is most of the blooms on hibiki are clusters that form relatively near the base of the canes. Well, good luck with that. Good luck trying to find some space to push your blooms out. I think, strictly speaking, that should be split into 3 or 4 bits to give it room to breathe. It's just gone mad. Absolutely mad. And that's great, apart from the fact that it's probably not going to do too well with the blooms. You know, they won't have room for anywhere to be. Ah. Right, let's get that silly Dendrobium back in. I'm sure that's not Friedrichsianum with the cane that is 4 foot long. I mean, I've had mine a lot of years and it's bloomed well for me and got an award, and it's never grown canes anything like that long. But we could be wrong, that may be exactly what it is. We shall see. The other thing is, another little problem plant, my Psychopsis I got quite a while ago, and this is called Mariposa Twins. What's the twins all about, we ask ourselves. Could it be that it produces 2 spikes from a bulb? Or I don't think it's going to be that it produces 2 blooms on a spike. That would be rare. But recently the spike has gone green and started to push out. This may be a bud that's actually going to make it to a flower now. But what it is doing down here is pushing out something there that looks like a new growth in a leaf axil. Well, that's going to be a weird place to produce a new growth. But this is not doing at all well. It's in cocoa husk and it has some roots, but they're not very good. But until it grows a new bulb, I don't think it's going to grow any new roots. But it's not failing. It's not doing brilliant. But then it's, you know, we're just coming out of winter. This sort of plant is never going to do well in my place in winter. It's too cold. And it just slows it down, well, to a standstill. But as the better weather comes, maybe it will push on. Maybe. I love Psychopsis. You know, I'd have loads of them. But there's not a lot of point when I'm not going to have the winter temperatures that suit them. Oops, forgot my little drip tray. That's better. Yeah, so that'll do for today, I think. Sort of just a look at a few plants, and just say I've got a virtual show on the go at the moment for Wessex Orchid Society. I'm getting a trickle of photos in via emails for that. And because that's being run like a proper show, they've got to send 2 pictures, one of the whole plant and one close-up of the blooms. They've all got to be filed away in the appropriate folders for the classes in which they're in, and some of them have come in aimed at the wrong class and they've had to be moved, but not too bad. Not too many, but not too bad. Given that the show would be in March and the show tables would have all these classes with all these plants in, it seems odd that all you've got to do is take a picture this time. You haven't got to physically get in your car with your plants, hoping you don't damage them, and bring them to the show and register them, all that. All you've got to do is take some pictures and send an email. So I'd have expected at least that many. No. Some people just don't want to bother. And then the other thing I've got on the go is the virtual table display for Bournemouth Orchid Society. That's closed. So I've basically sent the folders over to the 4 judges and I'm waiting for the points to come back. It would be nice if they were watching, because then I could say, and I'm waiting for the points to come back, and they might hear me, but they won't be watching. But yeah, it closed on Thursday. The charts and everything and the folders with the pictures were all set off first thing Friday morning before any of those would have been out of bed. I am, you know what I'm like, I'm up early. So they've now had them some time, and I've had 2 out of the 4 back. One guy, he sends his points awards back the day that I send them. So if he gets them in the morning, I've got them by the end of that day. So that's good. And then another one followed on the next day, and the other 2 I'm still waiting on. And I can't finalise anything until I've got all 4 sets of points, because what I have to do is for each plant I add up the 4 points to get a total and divide it by 4 to get an average. Well, I can't do that if I've only got 2, can I? So I need the 4. Hopefully coming soon. I'd like to think by the end of today. You know, this is the weekend after all. Although one of them I know is retired, the other one may still work, I'm not sure. I think he's retired as well. I can't imagine how busy you can be that from the time you get out of bed to the time you go to bed, you can't spare enough time to look through whatever it is, 15, 20 plants and award points, being that you are a qualified judge and it's what you do. Doesn't seem that difficult to me, but then I don't have to do it. But I have to wait for it, and then I have to add them all up, do that, get calculator out, divide by 4, can't do that in my head, for every individual plant, and then send them off for the records, for the, there's a money prize for the person who gets the most points in the 2 classes, so I have to keep those records up to date. And then all of the photos and everything, the first, second and third places, once I know what they are because I've got the points back, the photos have got to be edited to put their place on. You know, like first place or joint first or whatever. The photos actually got to be edited to put that text on. Then they've got to be bundled up and sent off to the guy who does the newsletter in time for him to be able to get all those pictures in the newsletter, finalise it, get it off to be proofread, make any corrections and get it ready to be published for when our meeting would be, which is on Friday. So it's funny, I can raise my voice at the camera, but they're not going to hear, are they? It's like shouting at the telly, you know, like I did with the rugby yesterday. They can't hear you. They can't hear you. Trust me. Anyway, that'll do for today because this battery's about to die now. That's 3 that have gone. One's on charge, the other 2 will follow on. And thanks for dropping by, and I will see you again next time, whenever that might be. The project plants, both of those parts will probably be done during this week, the part 3 and part 4. Otherwise we're going to be out the end of March before we know it. So they'll be during this week. We've got the what have we got? The Cattleya types and the others, the mixed assorted variables. And I'll see you next time. Thanks for dropping by.